We've made our way from Prince Edward Island's capital city of Charlottetown to the big city. And what better way to get acquainted with a new place than a fam trip? Coming up, we're talking to a master meeting planner that's going to tell us about all things familiarization. All this and more starting right now. Hey, you're watching Meet Me Here. If you're just tuning in for the very first time, this is a web series designed for meeting planners, and we take the great insight of what I call master meeting planners, and one of them is so delighted to be joining me today, as I'm delighted to be joined by her, and that is Alysone Will of Absolute Conferences and Events, and you're the president, of course. Thank you for being here, and welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that.
Yes. So, first off, tell me, how did you get into this industry?
Well, I had been working in the industry for approximately 15 years when the company I was with went bankrupt, and it was a need to have a position or have a job. And there was a client or two that needed to have their conferences finished, so I took them on, and from that I have built Absolute 22 years ago.
So you have a career in the meetings industry that spans more than 30 years, really?
I guess so, yes.
Yes. Well, so I would say you're seasoned in the industry.
Yes, I started in retail, but now and before that, way back as a secretary. So yes, I'm a person, I guess.
So without getting into the specifics about things you've seen change in the industry itself, how dramatically has it changed over the course of 30 years?
Hugely changed. When I think of what the budgets were that we had to work with in those days, and the budgets now, and how everybody is extremely budget conscious. I can remember way back having a huge international conference of 2,000 people and having over $1 million.
So what do you think is one of the biggest challenges facing the meetings and conventions industry today?
The reduction in budgets, the cost of everything, and the food and beverage.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's rising costs in every aspect, food and beverage in particular.
Yeah. And people are very, very budget conscious. At least I'm in the association market, so I'm not in the corporate market, which is perhaps a little bit different, but certainly the associations are for sure have to answer to their members. They certainly don't spend money like they used to be in the mid-'80s, for sure.
So we've heard from many of your peers in the industry that one of the biggest challenges overall is staying relevant.
Yes.
And one of those relevancies is fam trips, familiarization tours, which at one time, and still today, many people say is one of the best ways of getting acquainted with places. To get a feel for the fabric of the destination, the culture, sites, and so on. From your perspective, are fam trips still relevant?
I think they absolutely are. There's always a discussion about the ethical side of fam trips in our industry. And I, for one, in the office, believe, since our market is Canadian market, is that we should truly understand Canada and be able to advise our clients on destinations for meetings or board meetings or whatever. So I encourage the staff to go on fam trips. Very often it is mostly in relation to the possibility of placing a piece of business there.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to participate in several fam trips. There's certainly a vibe of fun and entertainment. People tend to let their hair down a little bit, sometimes too much. What do you think is the professional etiquette that a planner should use in attending and participating in an event like a FAM?
I think very strongly that there's a business etiquette there that has to be maintained at all times. Yes, have fun, but there's that fine line that you mustn't cross.
Good. Well, we're not done with you yet, but we're going to take a quick breakout session, and we're going to talk to some people in the field, both vendors and planners, in fact, about if they feel FAM trips are still relevant. We'll be right back. Do you think that FAM trips are still relevant in the meetings industry today, and why?
I do, because it gives people a chance to see what the region has to offer.
It's unfortunate when people take advantage of them, but they are definitely necessary if you're using them for the right reason.
I believe so. It's important to have fam trips. That way you get to explore the different destinations and you can sell that to whether it be your corporate partners or the client. Absolutely.
The targeted site visits with air assistance is really, really welcome.
For me as a national planner, it's key to be able to come in and take that opportunity to see what's available.
As if you truly have an RFP in your hand and you truly are going with a piece of business, then you should be there.
And we're back from our breakout session, of course, asking some of your peers in the industry about the relevance of fam trips. And of course, we've heard your response earlier in our interview. So how do you stay relevant over 30 years?
The biggest thing is education and going to conferences, you know, getting your designations. I have a CMP, get your CMM. It's it's an extension of your education. I strongly believe in keeping up with, with the industry through the education that's being offered. I personally am a member of PCMA. I go to at least one of their big conferences in the States a year, and out of the office we run PCMA Canada East, so therefore they're the education that we get an opportunity to go to there as well. Mm-hmm.
So you look back 30 years. Looking ahead 30 years, what will a conference in 30 years look like in your mind?
I'm not sure that a conference will not exist. I think that we are people, and I think that we will always have to get together to share information. Though there will be a lot of webinars and so on, I hope that the new generation or the young generation coming through aren't going to be stereotyped into just looking at that screen, because I really do think that the interaction with people is very, very important. Because, without interacting with people, how can you possibly maybe have clients? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Because you've got to build those relationships, and you can't build a relationship on a screen.
What is the greatest piece of advice you've ever been given as a planner?
Oh my goodness, that is a hard one. Really is a hard one. I think flexibility is the biggest piece of advice. Be flexible, be prepared to take on, as an independent planner, be prepared to take on pretty much anything and find out how to do it, and you learn so much that way. I will never forget some of the experiences that I've had where you sat down and you said, oh yes, you can do that, and you go away and you think, oh my Lord, how am I going to do that? And you just sit down and find an answer for it and do it.
What advice would you give to your peers now, and more importantly, the future generation of planners that'll come after you?
I think, I've been a person who was in a situation that I was somewhat forced into creating Absolute, and my answer is go for it. Just go for it and try it. And, there are lots of humps in the road, and when you look back on some of those humps, at the time they were like Everest, and in the end, because you have overcome them, they become just little humps in the road that we have to go over every day. But just go for it and try and enjoy the period of time, and it's not something I ever wanted to be, was to be my own boss, but it is when I look back, it's very rewarding in many, many aspects of what I've done. And it was just by chance for me, fortunately. Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been a treat. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope that I've been able to share some experiences with people.
There's no doubt about it. This has been my discussion or conversation with Alysone Will, the president of Absolute Conferences and Events. You, of course, can subscribe, you can share, you can give us a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in an upcoming episode. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.